Hey, welcome to the show, James. And so, Rob, I almost changed my shirt again for this segment, but I decided to stay with the greens for now. Hey, welcome to the show. Let's start with some introductions. I don't know who wants to go first. Maybe Sarab, you can go first since you're up on my screen first, and then we can do James. That's right.
Okay. Hey, Todd. Hey, Adrian. Thanks for having me. Saurabh here. I'm product manager for SageMaker Inference. Excited to talk about Llama 3.1 and JumpStart here today.
Cool.
James, slide
Thanks.
on it.
Welcome, James.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, thanks for having us on. My name is James Park. I'm a principal solutions architect. I belong to strategic accounts, and kind of cool on what I think is very cool is, my customer is Amazon. So just like we have other customers that we serve. Amazon is another customer of AWS, and now I get to work with teams across Amazon to work on generative AI. So.
No
Uh,
problem.
yeah.
Yeah, and so they're watching. Everybody at Amazon is watching today. Now, James, this is one of the cool things that I love about working at AWS is like when I was a developer, we talked a lot about eating our own dog food. That was a term that got thrown out way too often. This has kind of become cliche in the developer world, but that's something we do here. Like Amazon uses the services that we develop at AWS because just like every other company, they are trying to scale, trying to be efficient, trying to cost optimize, trying to find ways to do things better. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. James, so we're going to be talking about Llama. Let's get into it a little bit. SageMaker JumpStart. Now, I know SageMaker has got a lot of different components to it, but we're talking about JumpStart. What is JumpStart? How does that fit into the SageMaker ecosystem?
Yep. Yeah. So the way to think about it, Todd, is like SageMaker is a fully managed capability that helps you build, train, and deploy machine learning models, right? And SageMaker JumpStart is a model hub for you to discover latest foundation models and pre-built models, so you can quickly deploy them or fine tune them and play around with them.
So $1 million question, a question I get asked literally 20, 30 times a day. Why would anybody want to go through and fine tune a model? Isn't it just good enough to get going?
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, like depending on your use case, like you may want to just kind of use the foundation model out of the box, right? Like maybe do some prompting to it, and then just use it in your application. But if you want to kind of take that model, kind of show it some of your custom data and kind of fine tune it so that it's more precise in answering questions specific to your business, then you may want to kind of go ahead and fine tune the models. And with SageMaker Jumpstart, like we give you kind of a seamless capability to discover a foundation model and then kind of one click deploy it, or and as well as one click or within a few clicks fine tune it and then deploy it for into your production or for your testing.
Interesting.
Yeah. We talk about generative AI quite a bit on this show, and one of the things that and I wish we had more time to really dig into what are some of the various aspects of generative AI. We started talking about like these different numbers and these different constructs within generative AI. We're talking about how the size of the model, how many parameters went into the model while it was training, and that kind of gives you some sort of idea of what it's capable of doing or how capable it is. But it's not going to know specifically your data. It's not going to know because it's been trained on whoever developed the model has trained it on the parameters that the different corpuses of text. But if you want it to be like hyper aware of what your data is, that's where you're going to want to fine tune and say, no, take what you already know and supplement it with this very specific information. So, and we can do that, and Jumpstart makes that easier to do.
Yep. Yeah, so with Jumpstart, like as I said, right, like it's a model hub where you can discover all the foundation models. Like we have like providers like Amazon, Hugging Face, Meta, Cohere, AI21. You can discover foundation models from these providers, and then we offer like model cards for all the models from these providers. For instance, like for Meta, like we have Llama, Llama 2, Llama 3, and now Llama 3.1. And you can discover all the information about these models, kind of pick what's best for you. And going to your point that you brought up, Todd, like that, hey, there are models with different parameters and things like that, right? Like some of them having like lesser number of parameters, some of them having really large parameters, right? Like, so depending on your kind of the use case you're going after, and the kind of precision you're looking to solve that use case, you can pick like models like with different parameter size, and then with JumpStart, like kind of fine tune them using the kind of the UI based experience that we have.
Yeah, this is one of the things I love about JumpStart too, because when you're browsing foundation models in JumpStart, it actually gives you really great information of the description of the models, what it was trained, what it's good for, some use cases for that model. And then I've even seen some cases where there's a sample notebook where you can kind of get started using that model. So it really does a great job of helping our customers along with how to use these different foundation models. But today we're talking about the launch of Llama 3.1. So this is presumably an iteration on the Llama series of models. Anything you want to say there before we jump into a demo?
Yeah. So Llama 3.1 is the latest of the Llama series from Meta for the Llama models. It comes in like 3 variants, and like there's a 70B model, there's an 80B model, and there's also 405B, and you can also have an instruct variant for each of these models. And you can find all these models on SageMaker JumpStart, and these models are capable of they're pushing the boundaries in terms of the performance benchmark that we had with Llama 3, and also like they have a broader support for more languages and larger context windows. So you can discover any of these models and kind of one-click deploy, as well as kind of fine-tune them on SageMaker JumpStart. And I think we're going to go into the demo with James kind of walking us over to the journey for customers to try this feature out.
Yeah, while we're bringing up that demo, Adrian, how's our chat looking? Any questions coming in on the JumpStart front?
Lots of Emperor's New Groove references, so I'll start with that. Second, yeah, we do see some questions, just kind of some splendor and wonderment, to use that term, that it really is as simple. You go and you get your menu of what exactly you want to do. You only got the pros and cons proactively. That's speaking to a lot of different dimensions of helping answer the obvious and at times very difficult questions to be able to get the nuance out of it. And it just seems genuinely the chat is appreciative of that. And I know I'm not a data scientist, but more and more of my partners and customers are pushing me to go down this way to help them experiment and iterate. And actually, I heard from the CEO Tuesday on them getting stuck with some Jupyter notebooks. So I had to go in there and get in their shoes and figure it out. You guys make it fall down easy for us. So with that, let's jump right into the demo if we can.
Yep.
Cool. So what I got here up on the screen is basically what we refer to as SageMaker Studio. And SageMaker Studio is, as Saurabh mentioned, fully managed, so you don't have to worry about any of the instances or the setup. It actually literally took me like 3 or 4 clicks to deploy a new SageMaker domain and click into this experience. But highly recommend everyone checking out if you haven't already. And you can see off of that, I got menu items as far as applications. If I wanted to, I could stand up a Jupyter Lab notebook, kind of play in that Python playground and whatnot. But we're here to talk about JumpStart. So I'm going to scroll down here to JumpStart. And Todd, as you mentioned, we have a ton of different models supplied by a lot of providers. And you can see here off of that, in this particular instance, I got 19 providers available to me. You can see Meta up there, front and center, with 51 models. But just in case, if you wanted to filter that down, I can go ahead and put something in the search bar. And if I click on Meta, I'm going to see all the models that are available on JumpStart through Meta, right? And today we're talking about Llama 3.1. For me, it's been an awesome model. Customers love it. The capabilities, how it performs on benchmarks is, it's pretty, world class. And, I can filter down again the number of models by putting, let's say, 3.1 to limit my search results to the 3.1 model. And then you can see the 6 models that Saurabh had mentioned.
That's right. So we see at number 2, we see a couple different things in that name there. We see that 405B. I imagine that's some indication of the number of parameters that went into this model. But we have a question in our chat too that's directly around context length. So within interacting with some of these models, there's a context that gets provided so that we can, query these models in different context lengths. And the question is, what dictates the context length limit?
Yeah. Go ahead, James. Do you want to take that?
No worries. Yeah, so there's a few different things that go into what a model supports. So first of all is the actual model itself. And so with these new Llama 3.1 models, they support, I believe it's 128,000 tokens or context length. And that's the first piece of it is, what's the model provider done to architecturally support certain context length? And then in practical use, and what you'll see, as you interact with, let's say, SageMaker is, depending on the instance types that you select, beefier hardware will generally be able to max out that 128K token support. Whereas if you want to be frugal and be super fast, you can pick a smaller instance. You just might want to be aware that you're going to be able to, be limited to a limited number of tokens there.
Oh, so you have some control. You have a little bit of flexibility in that based on the size and the model that you select. That's very cool.
Yep. And just adding to what James said, Todd, like we put a lot of sweat and tears to kind of, since we have a one-click deploy experience on JumpStart for different instance types, like we put a lot of sweat and tears to kind of make sure that we are able to hit the max context length for a given instance type for a given model, right? So let's say like for Llama like 70B, like you could get the full context length 128K on a powerful P5 instance, right? But if you want to run it on a P4DE, like we still support like a good amount of context length, and we've put a lot of work to make that happen. So it's like for each of the instance types that you see, and James will get to it in a bit, like we kind of try to support kind of the most context length that based on some of the science improvements and engineering improvements on our side.
Very cool.
Okay. Yeah. So to dive right in, I'm just going to choose the 3.1 version and the 8 billion parameter base model.
Okay.
And this is a great screen. It's what we'll refer to many times like the model card, and you get all the details of the model as far as, the types of, the sizes, as well as the data set it's been trained on. As long, and I won't bore you with it, but, as JumpStart kind of entails, we can jumpstart your activities such as deploying the model. And you can see up here, I have a deploy button. And through this UI experience, I can actually, with a few clicks of a button, deploy this model. So it's going to ask me to accept the EULA, specify a name and an instance type. And literally I can click deploy here and have a SageMaker endpoint that is running and hosting that model that I can run inference against. And likewise, if we go back a little bit, in addition to deploying a model as it is in JumpStart, let me go back to the model hub real quick. Going back to 8B, you can also see that I have a couple of different options here. So in particular, I have this train button. And if I click on that, I actually have the ability to, as mentioned earlier, fine-tune Llama based upon my own data set. So what you do is you basically specify a data set that's contained within an S3 bucket, as well as some hyperparameters or knobs and switches to get the best model possible. And ultimately, again, you choose your instance type, and further down the line, you can click submit. And SageMaker is going to do all the heavy lifting for you. It's going to grab that training data, fine tune your model. And for the sake of time, I've already done that. So if I click on jobs in the left-hand column, I can go to training. And you can see here, one of the training jobs that's completed and succeeded. And this was a job I ran earlier in the week that took a data set that essentially fine-tuned that model. And after that model was fine-tuned, I can click deploy to create another endpoint. And same as before, filling out a few different fields, clicking deploy, and deploying, in my case, 2 different SageMaker endpoints. And so to show you guys, and I thought this would be kind of fun, I deployed the base model as it is out of the box, as well as a fine-tuned model to see if we could see some differences in the performance. So if I click on endpoints, you can see here I got the 2 endpoints, right? The first one is named JumpStart-DFT, blah, blah. That's my fine-tuned model. I've used a data set to kind of cater to, again, getting better results for my particular use case. And then bottom, a little below that is the base model. So I'm going to click on that base model. and you can see the entire endpoint details here. For us, I'm going to click on test inference, and you could run inference straight out of the UI, which I think is super cool in JumpStart. And I have a prompt here that I've created, and I'm basically going to say, hey, can you describe the process that you would use to generate answers? Please provide a step-by-step explanation. I can send that request to SageMaker to get that inference result. And you can see with the base model here on the right side, you can see the results. It's not that great of a response, right? I'm trying to understand how to generate answers. I'm not sure what you mean by generate answers, and then it kind of repeats. But let's take that exact same prompt with the exact same parameters against our fine-tuned endpoint. And I'm just going to navigate to it real quick. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go to test inference and supply that same request in JSON format. We're going to click send request. And you can see here, I have a way better response coming from that model because I've fine-tuned it. So it says, thank you. The process that I will use to generate answers is as follow. 1. I start by reading the question carefully to make sure that I understand what is being asked. 2, yada, yada. But it really gives you an idea of like the power of fine-tuning and just how easy it is to do with SageMaker JumpStart.
Wow.
Now, yeah, one thing I'll add is like, this is all UI driven, so that's super easy, especially if you don't know how to code. But everything is also available through our SDKs like Boto or SageMaker SDK. So super easy whether you code or not.
Cool. This leads me to a popular question I tend to get asked a lot, especially given how it's almost a race condition to be able to find better ways to simulate the type of data that you're going to be leveraging. Can this be leveraged to go about with synthetic data generation, or is that kind of outside of the scope of it?
Yeah, so interesting question, Adrian. So like Llama 3.1 models can be used for synthetic data generation, right? Like and our customers are excited about it. And so with synthetic data generation, what you could do is kind of use the 405B model, which is kind of a model which has a lot more larger number of parameters, kind of use it to generate synthetic data, which essentially is like data generated by a model that you can use to fine tune your subsequent model. And and then as you're generating the synthetic data, you could kind of generate it in a way which kind of mimics your actual data of or the kind of the domain that you're looking for. So what we have seen our customers kind of speak to is like using the 405B model to generate synthetic data and then kind of fine tune the smaller versions of the Llama 3.1 model, right? And so they get kind of the broad data set, right? Like without actually going and labeling the data, and then having a lower footprint when it comes to running these models at scale, because they have fine-tuned the smaller versions of Llama 3.1 models using a lot of data which is already kind of although synthetically generated, but more relevant to their domain.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing. This idea of synthetic generation. It's not something I've thought about. 'Cause it never occurred to me that you could just create data. Now, James, I want to go back to something you mentioned. You said we have a user interface that you can do this through and interact with this, but we also have some constructs in our API and in the CDK. What about Terraform? We have a question in the chat. Somebody's asking, can we do this through Terraform if we wanted to?
Yeah, so I'm not super familiar with Terraform. I do know that I believe it's SageMaker constructs. So my expectation is that it probably would, or if not, would be supported pretty soon. But unfortunately, don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's there's a bit of a keep up with the Terraform and the constructs that we develop for AWS, but I imagine SageMaker is a part of that, and I'm sure there's documentation available online where we could start to see some of the constructs in SageMaker for Terraform. Sarah, were you gonna?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like there's a blog out there which talks about like customers like deploying models through managing their infrastructure through Terraform for SageMaker. I'll have to dig that up and I'll put it on the chat like once we're off the camera.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Hey, this is really cool. I love seeing SageMaker in action. The idea that we can interact with some of these massive models and this like the frontiers of computing with generative AI with just a couple clicks of a button. Like I could literally just click deploy and I have an endpoint that I can start sending requests to and getting inference and generated response. It just blows my mind how far we've come and how easy AWS has made it. Thanks for coming on the show. Where can our audience go to learn more about SageMaker JumpStart, Llama 3.1, the models that we have available there?
Yeah, there's a bunch of launch blocks that we have put around, like using Llama 3.1 and JumpStart. Or if you're already familiar with JumpStart, like you can, or SageMaker, you could go to JumpStart, discover the model as James said, and just go ahead and try out Llama 3.1.
Yeah, like just like that. Just a couple clicks of a button. That's awesome. Hey, thanks for coming on the show. We're going to have you again, I'm sure. SageMaker's always doing new stuff, so we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.